Thwack! Gabe hit the injured lizard in the head with the butt of his rifle, while everyone else swarmed it to get it under control. Rocket and Bo provided security while the rest of the team roughly put plastic restraints on it. Wow, that was easy, Shar said with her knees still on the back of the lizard's neck. Bo looked at her. I was almost certain one of us was going to die trying to grab one of these fuckers. Rocketeers perked up in surprise. Really? Of all the absurd things you all do, kidnapping someone is the hardest? Gabe was putting a black bag over the poor struggling lizard's head as he answered. Well, under normal circumstances. The lizard was trying to thrash and buck Shar off its back. A vicious punch in its side by Jin caused it to yelp in pain and stiffen. We would have to sneak up on one of them, kill his friends, and somehow disarm the thing while avoiding its claws, Gabe continued, finally getting the bag on. It's pretty goddamn dangerous to kidnap someone when he and everyone around them are armed, he finally finished. The poor thing started screeching and whimpering as its feet were also put into the restraints by Sergei. Rocket, tell it to shut the fuck up or we start breaking bones, Barbecue said, overseeing the wrangling. Rocket turned around and did what he was told. Be quiet and we won't hurt you anymore. The scourge stopped its screeching, but continued to moan in pain and allowed them to finish. Please, don't kill me, it said in a pitiful voice. Rocket tilted his head curiously. This was the first time any scourge had ever begged for its life. I don't want to fight. I'm not a warrior. Please, I don't want to die. It continued in almost a shout. What's it saying, Rocket? Barbecue asked. Rocket was shocked. They usually fought to the death, and any too wounded to fight hissed and clawed at them. It's begging for its life, he answered. Barbecue squinted his eyes at Rocket. And I'm assuming that isn't normal. Well, usually they're much bigger, and any questions asked would be answered with profanity. Rocket started to scratch behind his ear. We needed to torture them to get any information out, and it was usually unreliable information. Gabe stared at the lizard intensely for a few moments, and finally said to Rocket, Ask her why her own kind is trying to kill her. Rocket looked at him in confusion. Why do we care why these things want to kill each other? Gabe frowned and was going to answer the Uvil when Barbecue cut him off. Focus! We don't have time to interrogate it. Ask where the entrances to the den are, he said sharply. Rocket immediately obeyed and started to pry for information. Barbecue stood and walked away and got on the radio with command. Dark Star, we have snatched one enemy combatant. They seem cooperative. Please advise. Malice, you are to continue your mission and extract the prisoner, came the answer from command. Irritated, Barbecue said, Dark Star, this is Malice. We have a cooperating lizard and we blew our initial approach, requesting for immediate extraction. Hold one, Malice, Dark Star responded. Everyone was busy holding security, looking to see if there were any other pursuers of their new guest, besides Rocket and Shar. Shar was busy addressing the lizard's wounds. It was malnourished along with signs of heavy abuse, and she was busy dressing her newest plasma bolt injury. Rocket, however, was busy getting as much information about the den as he possibly could. The radio cracked to life. Negative, Malice. You are to continue with your mission with Bishop. Over. Barbecue rubbed his face in frustration. Dark Star, I say again, we have a wounded but cooperating lizard, requesting to extract. Dark Star immediately shot back. Malice, you are to continue your mission and then proceed to the extraction point. Dark Star out. God fucking damn it, Finley, you greedy fuck! Barbecue almost shouted. Where the fuck are the entrances? If we're going to die, we might as well get this stupid shit over with, he continued. Rocket seemed a bit worried by Barbecue's outburst, but answered. There are 3 entrances about 300 to 400 meters that way, he pointed northwest. The den is about 50,000 square meters large, all underground, and a training facility 10 or so kilometers away from it, Rocket continued. Barbecue looked at Shar and asked, How bad is it? Can it walk? Shar finally finished treating the lizard and looked up as she took off her gloves. It's not good, but it's not terrible. Throwing her gloves into a hazardous materials storage bag, she continued. It should be able to walk for a while, but we're eventually going to have to make a stretcher. Barbecue sighed. More ridiculous complications to an even more ridiculous mission. Let's get fucking going then. Maybe something good will happen by the time we get there. Like they're all dead or something, he said sarcastically. Everyone got up, and Shar cut the plasticuffs off the lizard's feet. When does anything nice ever happen to us? Gabe said, moving towards the northwest, taking point again. Barbecue pulled off the hood on the lizard. Tell her to lead us to the den. If she does everything we tell her, we'll guarantee her safety. I've already contacted Bishop. We're to link up and move forward towards our secondary objective, he finished. The nerves were kicking in. Everyone knew what kind of shit show this was going to be. The group got in their patrol formation and started making their way towards the den, with their prisoners' directions. Making sure to stay off the known pathways, they crept through the forest, their pace slower than usual due to their wounded prisoner. They only stopped when they saw aggravated patrols rushing past them, yelling in their guttural language. They seem pissed, Sergei said in a hushed tone as he watched a patrol 100 meters away run towards where they initially captured their prisoner. Everyone looked at their guest in wariness and wondered what the hell it did to piss everyone off. Bo grunted as he shifted the sonar mapper. This fucking thing! The 20-pound sonar emitter was awkward to carry, too bulky to fit in an assault pack or rucksack, and its pointed receivers dug into whoever was forced to carry it. Usually installed on aquatic ships for mapping sea floors, it was found to be very effective in mapping lizard dens or tunnel networks. Sorry, Bo, but you pulled the shortest stick, Shar teased as everyone got up to continue towards their destination. Jin looked behind where the lizard patrol was going. Whatever happened, it's pulling a lot of them away towards the den. Maybe luck was on their side. It took them almost an hour to walk 400 meters through the dense jungle, but they finally linked up with their sister team, call sign Bishop. Both teams set up a perimeter 100 meters away from the main entrance to the den. It was a small but gaudy building that sat in the middle of a jungle. Its bright white and red colors were jarring as it contrasted against its surroundings. A group of 7 guards were outside of it, yelling at each other in aggravation, flailing their arms and pointing in the direction of their earlier encounter. What are they saying, Rocket? Sergei asked as he peered down the optic of his rifle. Rocket strained his ears. It was hard to make out what was being said. They're cursing the traitor and sending more men to find and kill it. Traitor? Everyone looked at the shivering and pathetic lizard behind them. Gabe was going to inquire, but Barbecue cut him off. Save it for later, Gabe. We need to get out of here alive first. Barbecue then turned to Bishop's team leader. Sam, how the hell are we going to do this? According to our source, this building houses a grand staircase that leads to a massive greeting room. Bishop team leader, Sam, rubbed his head. Fuck, I don't know. I'm almost tempted to abort. This is a suicide mission. The discussion went on about possible strategies, but nothing sounded good if they wanted to keep living. Rocket was nervous. He kept checking his weapon, making sure it was fully operational, just to keep his mind off of their mission. He eventually turned around to face the Scourge. The thing defied all his knowledge of what they were supposed to be. It was small, weak, and shivering out of fear. You! He called out. The poor thing flinched and focused on the Uvil. Yes! Rocket stared at the Scourge in silence. His mind ran through several questions he wanted to ask it. He finally settled on one question that had been bugging him. Why are you cooperating with us? We're here to kill your people. The Scourge was still shivering, staring at him when he had answered. They have taken everything away from me. Rocket was silent as the Scourge continued. I don't want to die. I just want to grow the gardens. The Scourge looked down in sorrow. They sent us all to die for their gluttony. They took me from my gardens. They took my family. They sent my last egg brother to die. Rocket didn't know whether to feel sympathetic or maintain his hatred toward it. All his life he believed the Scourge were a plague, not only for the Empire but for all sentient beings. Silence lingered between the two. Rocket was in deep thought when he finally decided to ask. What is your name? The Scourge looked up at him. My name is Donna. Rocket, get up here, Jin called out. Donna, I'll remember that name, Rocket said as he turned around to join the discussion with the rest of the team. A member from Bishop traded places with him to watch over the prisoner. Okay, Rocket, this is what's going to happen, Barbecue started to explain. The plan was to split the teams into 3 groups of 4, have an assault team hit the front hard and heavy, and set up the sonar emitters on the other 2 entrances. The sonar teams were to hold for a minimum of 5 minutes, and a maximum of 10 minutes, while the assault team were to push as far in as they possibly could, and pull as many combatants away from the other 2 entrances as possible. No one liked this plan. The chances for failure were way too high, and in all likelihood, the assault team was probably going to be wiped out. Rocket put his hand to his chin and said, "This seems suicidal." Barbecue rubbed his head and Sam spat. "Yeah, but it's all we have. We're basically being ordered to die to get this intel." "Let's just get this over with. I'll be a part of the assault team," Barbecue said when Rocket cut him off. "Why don't we put the sonar emitters on the ventilation shafts and have the 4 teams just hold the entrances?" Rocket blurted out. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at him. Rocket looked around nervously. I mean, it's an underground complex, right? It should have ventilation. We just set the emitters on top of it. While the Scourge is confused, we could hold the entrances or engage them when they go outside to see what the noise is." Both teams were stunned. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. Both teams were silent, stunned and staring at Rocket like he had just grown a 3rd arm. Rocket looked at everyone in confusion. Did he say something wrong? It was Gabe who rubbed his head roughly and said, "You're a fucking genius." Barbecue started laughing and slapped the Yeovil on the back, startling him. "Fuck me! You just saved all our lives." Barbecue turned around with a vicious smile. "Change of plan, boys. We're going to fuck shit up." Barbecue turned to Jin and said, "Prep some fire missions. Why have 3 problems when we can have 1? Everyone was in their respective positions with Malice providing overwatch, as their sister team maneuvered with Bo and Sergei, closer to the ventilation shafts that their prisoner pointed out. The element planting the devices would notify their overwatch when the installation was complete, and make their way to the ambush positions. On the first ping from the mapper, everyone was to open fire on the guards at the entrance. Rocket's nerves started fraying as he aimed down his sight. This was it. This was where his newfound training would be tested. Barbecue's wrist-mounted datapad quietly vibrated as he turned his wrist to read the message and check the time. 1 minute, Jin. Get your ordnance in the air, he said over the net. Jin and Bishop's JTAC maneuvered around the den to find the other entrance, and were coordinating their strikes to collapse them. Rocket's ears twitched as he heard Jin's confirmation that several high-explosive penetrators were inbound. ETA 2 minutes until impact. He watched the entrance and listened in as the radio came back to life. The patrols were making their way past their lines. Rocket shifted his machine gun from the entrance to the group of 20 Scourge walking towards the entrance, his barrel tracking them. The Scourge were animatedly talking. The fury from their failed search and discovery of their dead comrades was written all over their face. Rocket looked back at Donna. Her feet were bound again, and the hood was back on. What did she do? He wondered to himself. Now was not the time. Rocket refocused on the task at hand. 1 minute until impact, Jin said over the radio. Rocket's heart rate picked up. The others should be out of the area by now. Some of the guards started to enter the den while the others continued to yell at each other. Rocket inhaled deeply and closed his eyes. Calm yourself. You're ready, he quietly said and slowly exhaled. He slowly opened his eyes and a switch inside him was flipped. It was time to work. Ding! The ground vibrated as the first ping from the mappers echoed through the den. Rocket didn't even think about it. He pulled his trigger at the confused, clumped group of Scourge as they turned their head towards the entrance. The bright flashes of his weapon barked to life as he saw the Scourge flinch, clutching parts of their body and collapse. Rocket barely even registered the sounds of the rest of the team opening fire. In this moment, he was Death, Reaper of Souls. Rocket shifted his fire to the other side of the building as more Scourge rounded the corner, and he too cut them down. The earth then seemed to shake as those all too familiar explosions ripped through the forest, the plumes of smoke and debris shooting up violently into the sky. Then the entire forest erupted. The other team found the rest of the patrols. He heard the long, drawn-out gunfire, just like his weapon. Bo made it out okay and was now ripping into whatever was behind them. Another string of violent explosions from another direction. Both entrances were hit. The vicious smile on Rocket's face said it all. This was the most fatal of all funnels, as the Scourge started to pour out of the entrance. He went back to his bloody work as he opened up more long bursts onto the startled Scourge coming out. Ding! Ding! The mappers were in full swing, as was the rest of the team. Everyone was firing away, keeping that entrance plugged. Scourge cries of the dying could be heard just outside the doorway. Another fresh squad tried to scramble outside, but Rocket put a stop to it by letting loose with another large burst from his machine gun. A third of the troops fell back into the doorway as he peppered them. A burst of machine gun and rifle fire from his flank cut down the rest as they tried to dash away. 5 more minutes, Rocket said to himself, squeezing out consecutive bursts of machine gun fire. Jin came running behind him and patted his back. We almost have our data. The place is symmetrical as shit. Get ready to pull out. Sergei and Gabe, who were right next to him, turned around and started prepping the prisoner for transport. Donna was wiggling and squirming as she was lifted by the 2 strong men. Jin took position near Rocket to replace Sergei and started placing accurate rounds on the entrance. Once it's done, we're dropping more bombs, Jin yelled and started to change mags. We're blowing this entrance and putting 2 ordnances on the mappers. When I give the word, I need you to haul ass out of here towards the rest of the team, he concluded and continued firing on the doorway. The lizards returning fire in the doorway were spraying wildly. A poor soul stuck his head out and had it promptly blown off. Gabe and Sergei ran deeper into the forest with their screaming and wriggling prisoner, occasionally forcing compliance whenever she struggled too much. Rocket looked to the left of him and saw how much ammo he had left, 3 more sacks of 200 rounds each. Rocket looked at Jin and asked, How much longer until we're out of here? Jin briefly looked at his wrist-mounted datapad and said, 2 minutes, and then started prepping his fire mission. Rocket was aghast in horror. His bursts became much longer, trying to dump as much ammo as he could into the doorway. He wasn't going to haul all this shit back. Finally, he was down to only 2 belts of ammo left when Jin yelled, Okay, let's get the fuck out of here! He stood up and started running deep into the forest. Oh no, Rocket thought. He held down on the trigger and dumped the entire belt into the doorframe. Click! Hurry the fuck up! Jin yelled. Rocket immediately got up and grabbed his last belt and started running when a massive force hit him from behind, making him fall face first into a puddle. Jin immediately ran and grabbed his plate carrier and basically dragged him forward. Big Chi, we're too close! Hurry up! Still clutching his last belt of ammo and mud all over his face, Rocket tried to run forward as Jin dragged him through the forest. Bolts of plasma from the return fire were now peppering their general area. Rocket finally gained his footing and started to run with his life for Jin. If memory served him right, they were too close. Way too close. The regret of wasting time trying to lighten his load on the return trip spread through him. 200 meters away. 10 seconds until impact! Just take cover! Jin yelled while diving behind a tree. Rocket looked at him as he ran past, mouth agape as he tripped and fell down a depression. He was trying to reorient himself when the entire world seemed to erupt around him.